Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very, very, very special day in the life of our congregation here, the dedication of our new organ, which is still in process because we're also going to do a dedication, and we'll use that during our 10:30 service today. If you're visiting and don't know me, I'm Pastor Lance O'Donnell, senior pastor here since September of 2012. The opportunity to dedicate an instrument of this quality happens only once every couple generations, and it is a special privilege for Pastor Charnel and I to be able to serve you at this time. I want to say just a little bit of a word. If you were here for worship earlier, there is an order of service, and on the back it talked a little bit about the history of how this came to pass. And this organ being dedicated today is really the first step in what the leadership here hopes is a better way of doing business at St. Paul's. It got very tempting. I will tell you, I was very tempted when we were very close to having $105,000. We were at about 90. And I went to the pastoral staff, Pastor Charnel in particular. I said, "Oh, can we just order the thing? Can we, And Pastor Charnel said, in his quiet but powerful way, "No, Lance, we're going to do this the way we're supposed to do this." And that's really as part of our capital campaign, this is we're going to try and do things differently in this next generation here is have the money in pocket and buy it, and then go forward. And that's what we've done here, over $105,000 paid in full. And for that, we give thanks to God. So with that, Pastor Hendrickson, you're mic'd up. Is your mic all tested?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We are delighted to have you here, and thanks in advance to Larry and Linda Hansen with the camera, because you're going to get to see just all the work and delightful work it is that goes into making something like this happen. God bless you all.
Johann Sebastian Bach. You can't do an organ recital without some Bach somewhere. And Herr Bach rightly holds pride of place among Lutheran church composers because he, among many, many generations, perhaps best embodied the things that Martin Luther put together of how music, when it clothes the gospel, moves the hearer in a whole new way. And Bach did a lot of that. In fact, as he said, he wrote music for the glory of God and the good of his neighbor. But that good for Bach was a gospel good. And like a musical preacher, it would instruct and comfort and convict, guide, many things as a preacher does, Bach would do with his music. He said once that the organ was his pulpit. Now we back up a generation. The composer Buxtehude, which if you know composers, you may know his name as Dietrich Buxtehude. I have him on the program as Diederich Buxtehude, which is his Scandinavian way of spelling it. I had to sneak Sven and Oli in somehow today. But Buxtehude, while he was known for being a North German composer, is probably better known for writing music and shaping the musical heritage of the Scandinavian Lutheran churches, chiefly Denmark and Norway, and a good bit in Sweden as well. But Buxtehude, being a generation earlier than Bach, yet his style is very different, a very lyrical style, because Buxtehude was influenced by what was called the Pietist movement. And the Pietist movement began shortly after the 30 Years' War to try to bring back some compassion and emotion to all the doctrinal controversies that ripped the church apart in the 30 Years' War. And so his music is marked by a kind of heartfelt joy and comfort. And this setting of a mighty fortress, Ein feste Burg, is a good example of that. As you listen to the melody, it's not quite like the usual rugged, here I stand versions of a mighty fortress, but more about the comfort and peace we have because of this gospel fortress of God with us. At the end of it, I will ask you to stand, and we will sing Luther's famous hymn.
Very, very briefly here, we asked all our Sunday school kids to stay for the Kwanzaa, but the youngest among us who are starting to get squirrely, if you want to head out now, you can. Otherwise, we want the older ones to stay and enjoy. Thank you. You may be seated.
Can I go and get the stuff too, Pastor O'Donnell? Can I go get treats too instead of playing? Yes. I'm getting squirrely up here too. Next up in our batting order today is Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And usually the name of Mozart doesn't come to mind when you think of organ music. He's famous for his symphonies, several operas, piano concertos, piano sonatas, a lot of things that Mozart wrote that he's famous for, but his sacred music tends to get lost in the shuffle. If you remember the movie Amadeus back in the early 80s, I think it came out, it portrayed Mozart as rather devilish, if you will. And yet, when it came to expressing the faith, Mozart devoted some of his most profound compositions to the work, whether it was his famous Requiem, or he set the Mass several times, or one of these fantasias. This is one of two that he wrote later in life, which for him was his early 30s, for a gentleman in Vienna who had this massive clock, a clock that drove a pipe organ. If you've ever been to the House on the Rock over there on the other side of the stage, you've seen perhaps some of those big mechanical instruments, the band machines that if you pump a quarter in, they'll play music for you. Well, basically, this is what that clock was. It was a man's way of cranking out some music without having to hire musicians. Well, Mozart, being Mozart, still wrote a very fine piece of music for this mechanical machine, and it's been transcribed for real people to play as well. The Fantasia has an opening and closing adagio, very quiet, very emotional, and in the middle is pure Mozart, exuberance, scales running up and down, as the Emperor Franz, somebody said about Mozart's music, there's too many notes. Well, Mozart put in just enough, but there's a lot of them. And it's very exuberant and displays his youthful zeal, whether he's writing sacred music or a comic opera. The Fantasia in F minor of Mozart. Sometimes it's hard to decide whether playing Bach's complexity or Mozart's exuberance is more fun, but the answer is probably yes. Next up on the program is another hymn. Last summer, when Pastor and Diane got in touch with me saying, we made it to the goal, and would you be willing to come play a dedication recital? I said, sure. And one of the things I asked, because I had heard that Paul had written this anniversary hymn, I'd say I'd like to use the anniversary hymn in the dedication because it's still the sesquicentennial. But I had to inquire, what tune did he use? Did he use a pre-existing tune, or was one composed for his text? I found out it's the hymn tune, Westminster Abbey. Now you might say, okay. Westminster Abbey is a relatively new hymn in our circles. It appears the first time in the Lutheran service book, but it's been around a long time among Anglicans, that is, the English church in Great Britain, and Episcopalians in this country. The tune was written by Henry Purcell, who was a famous English composer in the early 16th century during the reigns of the first Charles kings. And this particular setting by George Towers is one of the few things I could find. Since it's new to this hymnal, there aren't too many Lutheran composers who've done anything with Westminster Abbey. And so we dip into across the pond with George Towers, who was an English Baptist organist. And Baptists in England, unlike in the United States, where we have the whole tradition of revivals and gospel hymns and all that, in England, they sound just like the Anglicans. They're very, very staid and very dignified in their music, and you would expect to hear this same music in Westminster Abbey itself. It's written as a postlude, but I'm going to play it as a prelude. I guess I can do that since we're on the other side of the Atlantic. But again, we'll sing the hymn afterwards, standing for the last stanza since it's a doxological one. George Towers' Festival Postlude on Westminster Abbey. Thank you, and thank you, Paul, down there somewhere. It's a nice text. Well, finally on the program, a little organist fireworks. Charles Marie Widor, an Alsatian French composer, big name in Parisian music, late 19th century, early 20th century, kind of spawned a whole school of organ writing that tended to use every pipe, every key, every bell and whistle you could use on the organ. And this is his 5th symphony for organ. He wrote 9 of them, if I remember correctly. This is the most famous, and the last movement particularly is the most famous. I like to say it's like ending a concert with the Stars and Stripes forever. It's very, very fun to play and rattles the windows and shakes the pews, so buckle your seatbelts for that. But to set you up for the noisy toccata, the 4th movement of his symphony is a very quiet, very introspective adagio. So soft, it kind of wraps around you and lulls you into peacefulness, just so he can turn right around and smack you with the toccata. So 2 movements of Widor's 5th symphony, the 4th and 5th movements. That wasn't it.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Pastor Hendrickson. Wasn't that fun to be able to see his feet and the hands going? So thank you, Larry and Linda, for having the camera going. Yes, indeed. I failed to mention, if you ordered an anniversary cookbook, they're in. You can pick them up after the service down in the office. So if you want a cookbook, there are some extras that are available for $10. And then just finally, thank the Lord for making this happen. You can there's some things, obviously, you can tell, and I'm not a trained musician, we can do with that thing that you can't do with a single keyboard. And God willing, the unleashing of a new season with this and all our other great instrumentalists, many of whom you're going to hear if you stick around in just a few minutes, a new season of great creativity and joy. So God bless you all. Thank you for coming.